go back and forth.
So Anthony, do you want to give me back the chair?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I'm signing up
I'm
to
just
give
trying to
discussion
figure
on the amendment.
Okay, discussion on the amendment.
The amendment was, as part of the dialogue discussion for those stakeholders that were there and board members obviously that we were there, we were being instructed by Terrence Gomes that if we do put money into our line item 400, which is purposes grant, that to be fair as a community, and which most other neighborhood councils do, is to have a competitive process and sort of put the grant period towards the end of the fiscal cycle and then sort of give a date so that all the local nonprofits, schools, parks, and any other entity can have an opportunity to seek funds from that grant. What we did is we sort of dismissed that advice, and all of a sudden now we're giving $5,000 to the Sereno Bicentennial Committee Parade because that's what came out of the recommendation from the Budget and Finance Committee. My position as the treasurer is two things. One is, it's not an open and fair competitive process for all nonprofits any longer. It's just for a single individual entity as noted. Two is,
We don't have forms
this
to keep
board
continuing
hasn't
talking.
voted on it.
Yeah, this is just
So it's
discussion,
not,
we're not voting
we
on it.
can't approve spending the $5,000 for this because it's merely a recommendation that came from the committee. So at any level, whether you agree with going through the competitive process or whether you just take specifically the recommendation from the committee, we can't approve it. It has to be stricken because that bicentennial committee must still come back to the neighborhood council, follow the process, go to the budget committee, and seek funds. And at that point, a recommendation will come, and then our board can take a position. Thank you.
Mr. Lopez.
What is striking or adapting that do?
What that would do entail is open the process to have the Healthy Start program come back and ask for funds. The Wilson High School group can come and ask for funds. Multnomah Junior High School can come and ask for funds. The Stallions can come and ask for funds. Basically what it is it allows someone else to earn a portion of the $5,000 allocated in item 400.
Yes. Mr. Pacheco?
Okay, now let me, and I'm just gonna talk a little bit here, just thinking, just trying to analyze this thing. Is 5,000 the only amount that's available under the MPG?
At this moment.
So it would, what you're saying is that by doing this now, then we kind of like close it out for everybody else to try.
Not exactly.
This
Well, no, I mean, that's what I'm asking. That's what I'm
Not
asking.
exactly.
So somebody would answer me, because
Okay,
I'm in
so-
need of information.
Let me just say that our goal tonight is to have this budget passed because we need to submit it to DUN so that we can get the funding process going. If the board feels that we need to do amendments to this budget at any point during the time of this neighborhood council fiscal year, we can do an amendment. If the chairperson and the treasurer the budget and finance would like for this to be considered again and to be opened up for a modification, I think that would be the point of having the budget and finance committee bring this back to the committee so that we can then look at this funding and how we would like to really allocate it. You know, if his concern is that only one group is getting all this funding, then we have a tool that we can use to change that. So that's, that's my 2 cents on this.
Okay, now, if I can continue further. Once people make a decision, it's really hard for them to undecide again and modify. It's really a difficult thing. So the danger in going ahead and making a decision now without allowing somebody else to try that may have another just as worthy or equal, thought. And then later on we regret it because we can't get anybody to. I mean, I kind of like the idea of leaving it open because if at the end there is nobody but the vice committee, then great, they can have it. But let's say between now and then, somebody comes up with an even better copy. Not that I'm saying that there's a better copy. Don't get me wrong, folks. There might be. then we're stuck trying to get people to undecide what they decided. And that's only from a human nature standpoint. So that's all I'm saying.
Thank you. Mr. Chavez?
The intent of the parade, like all your parades anywhere that you've all seen for your entire life, not just this one. The intent of the parade is to bring the people of those communities out and for that moment enjoy the intent of the parade, whatever it is, for 4th of July, Veterans, Easter parade, and so on, New Year's, Pasadena. You know, it's to bring the community out. That's the intent. It isn't the intent of this parade here to bring you from that parade to bring you in here. It's not designed with that in purpose, okay?
Mr. Chavez, if we can just kind of redirect it to the,
Wait a
to the
minute.
item?
Yeah,
To the motion?
I'm
To the
doing it
amendment?
my way, okay? Everybody has the opportunity to do it their way. Give me the same opportunity that Mr. Manzano there had, in the same amount of time, okay? Don't shortchange me. Okay, see that messed me up now.
Purpose of bringing them to the parade.
Okay, there's $37,000 for 94 neighborhood councils through the entire city of Los Angeles. And that's the only power that all the neighborhood councils have in the neighborhood councils to how to decide who gets it and why, okay? And in the end, the board decides on those matters, okay? Since we're not intending to bring those people in here, that isn't the intent of the parade, okay? And it's only 37,000. There isn't 50,000 like there used to be. There is no more rollover money, encumbrance money, none of that, okay? There's never going to be enough to cover all these organizations in any of these communities in the entire city. Nobody has enough money. So somebody is going to get shortchanged. And to run a parade costs a lot of money. The Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council, which is our neighbor right over the hill on the other side of the Soto Bridge, they allocate $10,000. And that's not enough to run their holiday parade. They've been doing it for years, okay? It costs more than $10,000 to run the parade here, okay? And the fact that they're getting $5,000 doesn't cover the expenses. And it doesn't shortchange anybody else because that money is spending here with you guys, the community, all that. If any of you have been to that parade, you have a chance to enjoy it with your kids, your grandkids. We adults have a different view because we've been there and done that, okay? But it's for the families.
Mr. Chavez, you know, I also want to point out to the audience here and to the board that you are the vice president of the Bicentennial Committee and that you might want to recuse your comments so that we can continue moving this item along.
We'll have to do it like the judge says. Joey tells the jury, that person didn't say what they said, so I disregard what I said. I didn't say it.
He wasn't here.
Mr. Johnson?
Question for the treasurer here. We have various standing committees that are allocated funding throughout the year, whether they're the education committee, whether they're the beautification committee, or the environment and green committee. What is the current allocation to those committees going to be for the upcoming fiscal year?
The process that the,
Yes.
we're only discussing the amendment
It's
right now.
only about the $5,000 for the.
Well, I mean, it's germane to the amendment because my feelings here, we're getting stuck on semantics here. We're getting stuck on verbiage. For example, if I'm a chair of a committee, I get allocated a certain amount of funding, a group could still come to my committee and make a funding request for an item on the neighborhood council. So it doesn't completely shut the door on those groups being able to get some sort of funding. The issue is in here is that the primary concern that was brought, the primary theme that was brought up in that discussion of the joint meeting was outreach. And this issue here is, when we're looking at an event within the jurisdiction of this neighborhood council, which one has the biggest outreach potential? And that's what we're looking at least that's what I was looking at here when I supported the allocation. Where, with our limited source of funding, are we going to be able to fund this, okay? In terms of funding an event that's going to have the most maximum outreach. If you remember that day, we gave out a lot of items at that event, okay? But it doesn't, I don't want the audience to get the idea here that once this $5,000 is allocated to one organization, everything else in terms of fiscal funding is closed. Now, saying that too, I also think that we get caught up on this when we should be looking at other revenue streams to help fund these events. But, I mean, let's not get stuck here on semantics in terms of where this money could go. Board has the right to go back and revisit budgetary issues. I think it's most important here tonight with the time remaining to get a budget approved, and then the budget committee could bring back any revisions to the full committee for alteration to the future.
Michael?
All right, real quick, so for MPGs, 5,000 is allotted from the budget, right?
Correct.
But if we approve it as is, and then there's money remaining later, we could technically move that money into more MPG.
Right.
Okay.
But also, what Mr. Manzano failed to add to his comment about Mr. Gomes talking about the MPGs and the process was that Mr. Gomes' main objective for us to allocate the dollars on the budget was for outreach. And the discussion that entailed and why the monies were allocated to the parade, to the bicentennial committee, was because the committee and the folks who were in the room having the discussion felt that that was you get the biggest buck for your dollar with the parade. And that is the reason why it got allocated in the fashion that it did. It wasn't because we selected that project as being the uniqueness of the project, but it was because of what it does for the community as a whole. So I just wanted to make sure that I added that because that's what happened in the group.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a card on this.
Yoli Garcia?
Reason why I want to make a public comment is because I am a member of the Budget and Finance Committee. And first of all, I mean, the $5,000 to bicentennial, it was voted for in favor that that was the best thing, as Tammy has mentioned. It's for outreach. We lack outreach in our neighborhood council, so that's why that was allocated there. Now, just because there's only $5,000 there doesn't mean that others don't have the opportunity. We can always transfer money. We've done it in the past. It doesn't take a lot. We can transfer money from other categories to the neighborhood purpose grants to allow other nonprofit organizations to get some of that money, okay? And I also wanted to point out, I know right now it's amendments, but on the draft, there's a gateway sign that we did not discuss. And
Yes,
That's a
oh,
mistake.
that's a mistake. That's,
But, I know-
I was gonna make that correction,
Okay.
so on that.
teacher kids elementary school, right?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
so I just wanted to make sure that that's corrected, and I think that on the budget narrative notes, the MPG to approve for outreach event, that needs to be, I would like for that to stay, because that's, like, as Tammy said, at the committee meeting, that was based on input and everything, that was what we saw, that was the best. So I would like to, you can later on put transfer money, it's not a big thing, we don't have the time.
Thank you. Committee members, council members, on the budget, there was a mistake. We used, a template that was given to us, and, if you notice on, 300, on the section 300, community improvement, there is gateway sign. That should be stricken out, and the number 11,516 moved up to community improvement project. It was just the template that we received that had this, and Connie just, cut and paste these things. Also, that Teach Our Kids Elementary School, the 5,000, it's also, needs to be stricken out, and the 5,000 moved up to the MPG line item.
The teacher kids.
So, we have, Anthony?
Before we take a position on the amendment, I'd like to just make a notation that Yolanda's correct, or you're correct, as a committee member, that we could make adjustments or to the budget, which is more work. But at the same time, what it does is it hampers what Mr. Johnson was speaking about, is how much money are the committees gonna get? Because this is the first time that the board is actually voting to give $5,000 to the parade. It's usually $2,500. So the other $2,500 is an increment, which could have been reallocated back into category 300, which would in turn give the committees, agriculture, beautification, public safety, or any other committees, education, a little bit higher opportunities to take advantage of expending that way. So basically the position is, I believe, that it's excess also to give $5,000 to the parade. And another thing is that they haven't submitted their request for funds yet. As part of the process, and I left my documents at home because I was at the treasurer's training on Saturday. I don't know if you have yours with you, Angelica, but it specifically indicated before we approve anything, we must receive an application in hand. So again, this would be contrary to the treasurer's training class I just took on Saturday.
But it doesn't exclude us from if they haven't turned anything to us yet, that could be the change that we make to this budget. You know, so I don't see it as a big obstacle for us to move forward with this budget and try to figure out.
I don't think it's an obstacle. I think it's quite reasonable and fair, but why should we have to indicate who is receiving the money? It's very simple. Just leave it open, and the budget doesn't change.
Mr. Johnson and Mr. Pacheco.
$5,000 for the parade. Now, let's be broad term here, okay? Are we, say the vice potato committee comes out and saying, well, we need 2,500. Well, still, it's the biggest outreach event of the year. And still, we should have $5,000 set aside for outreach material, okay? T-shirts, pens, bags, and so forth. I mean, so let's not look at it completely just getting into one organization. Let's look at it being the budget for the event too. That the neighborhood council could help. If the committee chooses, say they want 2,500, right? But we still have that 2,500 to help use as outreach material for the event. Okay? So, I mean, at this point, Anthony, I think you're working against gravity right now, okay? In terms of this motion, but we have the flexibility to revisit these issues. What did we give? What was the net total we gave to the bicentennial parade this year? When we added up all the allocation of miscellaneous funds from other accounts, $5,000. We did it, okay? So let's leave the budget as is, and it's put it on the responsibility of the budget committee to meet once a month, and if any alterations need to be made, we trust it, present it to the board for any changes.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Pacheco?
I guess my concern is, and it's not about Anthony, it's about one member trying to change what a committee has already decided. So if the committee decided this, right, if it's already decided this way, I have no other thing to do but the committee did their work. And so for me, although I agree with Anthony in theory, it would be against, to go against all the work the committee has done and said, that's going to be $5,000. So that's the dilemma I'm having, because I really sincerely believe in my heart that we should always allow for options. And that's what Anthony's doing and saying, and again, but on the other hand, if the committee who drafted this, put this motion together, has done all this work, I can't go against the committee who's done the work. That's all I'm saying.
And to add to that, I think, you know, we look at every individual at this table to be able to amend anything. And that's what we're doing. We're going through the process of allowing Mr. Manzano to do the amendment to this, and for all of us to listen to it and, you know, to discuss it. And so I think that that's the process that it's working for us. Cynthia?
Yeah, I do have a comment regarding that. The $5,000 that was allotted to them last year was because the previous board owed them $2,500. So it was never $5,000 ever. It was only $2,500. But because the previous board owed them money for 2 years, last year and the year before, they were allotted $5,000 because they owed them money. We don't owe them money anymore. So based on the numbers, it should be $2,500. But with the discussion that happened and everybody that wants to say it should be $5,000, it was never $5,000.
Thank you. Okay. So we have a motion with say that.
vote and with
On the amendment,
only on the, right.
okay, so we have to vote on the amendment. So, we need to, those in favor of,
Mike, then what was it?
all those in favor of the amendment to the motion, please raise your hand.
Amendment motion?
I got 4.
All,
Okay, I want to, raise your hand again. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? Me. Mike. How many Michaels do we have? There are 4. Sorry. Okay.
all those,
I'm a Michael too, by the way.
all those opposed to the amendment, please raise your hand.
Count 5.
For him, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And
I'll let him finish.
Michael. The fifth one was 1, 2. Michael, Tammy, Mike,
Angelica?
Angelica, okay.
Those that are abstaining, please raise your hand. 2 abstentions.
2 abstentions, okay. Abstaining here. Saying I still 5, 4, 2, amendment fails.
Okay?
No, it's 4, 5, 2.
4, 5, 2, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of those things that you use the tablet, the things move.
Well, I know something's wrong there. He said, well, here, 2 new refreshments.
Yeah.
So I'm saying something has to be moved. If that then actually
Yeah,
goes
but this
down
is,
to meetings.
yes. No, it should be left there because two of the refreshments is right there.
Yeah, but I'm missing the thing. That's zero. Either that or take this out. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, well, it's, you know,
Event
it doesn't
expenses,
have
who
a,
for your events?
okay, you know, since it doesn't have an amount there, I think that we just need to
That
move
means
forward.
there's no,
This budget narrative doesn't make sense,
no,
and okay.
straight. Well, ask the committee, I mean, ask the committee, but.
It was a
Well,
joint
like I said,
committee.
I know, well, then if you just take out this sentence, then you're okay.
Okay, so we're back to the first motion. With, the budget and finance, motion to approve the 2013-14 LA-32 Neighborhood Council as read, by the LA-32 Neighborhood Council President, attachment A. There were some corrections here. We struck gateway signs, teach our kids, and we're gonna strike out meeting expenses include food in our neighborhood council monthly meetings because there's no amount allocated on, section 200.
I thought it was under EDE, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, if you look at EVE,
EDE.
EVE, under outreach. It says event expense, food and refreshments. So, and there's $4,000. The implication is that's for food and refreshments for your events, okay? But there's nothing under meeting expense, and down here it says it should include that. So I'm wondering if that $4,000, some of that $4,000 shouldn't be under your meeting. It may just be an oversight here, it's not.
Okay, so this is one of the things that we can,
What means there won't be any, there's nothing for food at meetings?
Well, I think for the sake of time right now, is that, once again, getting back to the committee, to have a process, monthly basis of cleaning this stuff up.
Okay.
okay? So there's,
Wait a minute, can we ask Dunn what? I wanna ask Dunn, I mean, if we need to clean this thing up pretty well.
To clean it up, I would, meeting expenses, I would just strike that out, the first under budget narrative.
Right, that's what I was saying.
Strike out meeting expensing, well, actually, that's only a description of what that category, you may leave, that's fine. But the next three lines, I would take out because the facilities, 1680 is different than what you have up there. So under narrative, I would strike out facilities line. I will strike out the 4 town hall meetings, because I don't see it anywhere on your budget up there. And also the next line is storage, because I don't see storage anywhere on your budget either. So those are
Well, actually,
lines.
nothing, if you add the 3 of them up, if you add all 3 of those up, it equals the 3484 under facility rentals. The facilities related. They included storage and the facilities. The 3 of those added up equal the amount.
Okay, and just clarify that, yeah.
so narrative needs to be
Just
cleaned out.
clarify, because to me, I mean, I would have to pull out my calculator and add it, but
It
I would look
adds
into
up.
that if I look at it. When funding gets a demand warrant from you, they're gonna see, I don't see storage.
Yeah, use asterisks or footnotes
Yeah.
to indicate that
Yeah,
you're
but
going
just
back
making
up.
more
Oh,
clear, so
narrative.
I would approve it then, approve it, but take it back to budget committee and clean it up.
Okay,
And clean it up.
all right, so there's a motion in the agenda. Someone needs to move the motion in second, so we can take a vote. Oh, we did that, right? Okay, so we need to take a vote. All those in favor of the budget, of the motion regarding the budget as read, please raise your hand.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Opposed? Abstention? I show 10-0-1.
Thank you.
Budget passed.
Madam, I gotta move my card, that's somebody else, you right there.
Okay, so, we have a couple of things, I don't know if board members have had a chance to read the proposed community impact statement and the motion regarding, from blank. I don't know what, I don't know if these are time sensitive. Yes, sir.
I still think we ought to take a position on, E1, but council's already voted.
On what, I'm sorry? The plastic, yeah.
So time sensitive.
It already passed, right? So it's not time sensitive, so,
We're in the bank.
I would say the only thing you should hold on is the 10
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the, we're going to,
Ask the commission to postpone
Yeah.
item 8 B and C until next
Yeah.
month. Or B, C, D, and E.
I
We
would,
heard C, so just B.
yeah.
Why are we postponing this?
There's no time.
Well, one is no time, Michael, and the second is one of the items already passed city council, so it's kind of a moot point.
Right.
But we wanted to make sure that we had an impact statement put in. And then the other one is the land statement, so, with your permission, we'll move it to the next, or permission, move to the next, and I don't think that we have a forum, but, So the last item that I do wanna have us, take a look, and I'm gonna move it out of order, will be 9A, which is the, ad hoc website committee. Motion that the LA-32 continue to hire Mr. Aaron DeBrandi as full-time website consultant, website designer, and website administrator to maintain and update website daily and to provide continuous training for LA-32 Neighborhood Council. With an friendly amendment, to say, free for continuous training for labor as needed on a fee-for-service basis, not to exceed $250 monthly for the fiscal year of 2013, 2014. So we're adding the wording as needed on a fee-for-service basis on this, for this contract. I'm sorry, for this motion. Yeah.
That the LA-32 continue to hire as full-time website consultant, website designer, and website administrator to maintain and update website as needed on fee-for-service basis, and to provide continuous training to LA-32 board members as needed for an amount as not to exceed $250 monthly for fiscal year 2013.
Second by Mr. Santillan. Any discussion on this? Yes?
Okay, this is advice as a mentor, not a parliamentarian. A couple of things here. And you're gonna have to read between the lines. We've had problems with certain web developers where they've actually come in, gotten hooked into a council, took